Roth IRAs. How does the 5-year rule work? And how do we do conversions? And what's the benefits? In this episode, we cover all the details.
To learn more about how to secure your retirement and all the different elements you need to know, please subscribe to our channel and hit the bell so you'll be notified when we release episodes every Monday. We have helped hundreds of our clients gain clarity and get on the path to a great retirement. Now it's your turn. Let's dive in.
Welcome to Secure Your Retirement Podcast. Today, Merce and I have a topic that we know that a lot of people today are really concerned about, and that is Roth IRAs. It's a very big topic because if you are along the line of thinking that taxes in the future are going to be higher than where they are today, a Roth IRA is an extremely powerful tool. And the reason why is because whatever I contribute into a Roth now will grow with no taxes on the growth, and I can pull those dollars out without taxes. Here's the caveat. There's a rule, and the rule is called the 5-year rule. And what we want to do today is really talk through this 5-year rule, and then we're going to talk through actually what a conversion could look like and the power of it. So this is a extremely powerful tool. You just need to know the rules. And once you understand the rules, you can do it confidently. You don't have to worry and think about, hey, is this something I really want to do? Okay. So let's first of all, we're going to talk about the contribution, meaning I'm contributing to a Roth, and then we're going to talk about a conversion. Two different things. On a contribution, by the way, I have limits of how much I can put in. On a conversion, I don't. And so Merce will take you through those rules. But I can contribute into a Roth, but I have some rules. One of those is my income level. We're not going to go through that today. Just know that there's an income level. But there's a way around that some ways, and that is today many companies are offering what are called Roth 401ks, where there is not an income limit. There is just a contribution limit, okay, just like you would have on any one of the 401ks. So again, today, it's about the 5-year rule, so we're not going to go through all those details. So here's how it works. If I put money into a Roth, let's just say I'm contributing to a Roth, not the 401k Roth, a traditional or a Roth IRA, and I'm putting money into it, my contribution is 100% liquid. I can take it back out of the Roth, no matter what my age is. I put $10,000 in, I can take $10,000 back out. The 5-year rule actually is about the interest earned on the account. So I'm going to give a couple different examples. Let's say that I am 40 and I put money into a Roth IRA and I put $10,000 in, and let's say that I am now 50, 10 years later, and the $10,000 I put in has now grown to $20,000. So it's doubled. I'm 50. Well, I'm past 5 years, but I haven't met the next rule. The next rule is I'm not 59 and a half. So I'm 50. I got $20,000 in my Roth. I can take back out the $10,000 I put in. I just can't touch the $10,000 of growth. All right. Now, the majority of our clients and listeners are over 59 and a half. So let me give you an example of a 60-year-old. So a 60-year-old contributes to their Roth IRA. They put the money in, and 4 years later, it has $3,000 or $4,000 of interest. They are now bound to the 5-year rule on that interest because it was a new Roth. They put the money in. They've got to wait 5 years before they can take their interest. So that's the 5-year rule on contribution. So I've got to be 59 and a half and at least 5 years into the Roth IRA before I can take that interest out without paying a 10% tax penalty and taxes on the interest, okay? So if I want it to be 100% tax-free, I'll say it one more time, on a new Roth, I have to wait at least 5 years and 59 and a half. And if you want to think about it, whichever one is longer, right? So I might be 60. Well, I'm already there. So the longer is 5 years. So I've got to wait that period of time. Now, we're going to share a little what we call pro tip here in just a minute, but I don't want to go down that path until Merce hits on conversions.
Yeah. So a key distinction on what is a conversion, right? So Braden just went through contributions, and this gets confused quite often. Contribution, like Raiden said, is subject to annual limits. It's also subject to income limits as to whether or not you can contribute to a Roth IRA. A Roth conversion is not subject to limits at all. So you could convert $1 million. Where are you converting from? You're converting from pre-tax assets. So if, say, you have a traditional IRA that's got a large chunk of money in there, you can convert whatever you want to convert from a dollar perspective. The thing that we have to realize is that on that conversion, we are accepting the fact that we want to pay some tax today to get it into this Roth or this tax-free bucket. So that's understanding that what a conversion is. Now, once we understand what a conversion is, now we have to say, well, how does the 5-year rule apply to me? And like Raiden was saying, for most of our listeners, we're around that age of 59 and a half and above. So let's go with Raiden's example. We've got someone that's 60. They've got $1 million IRA, all pre-tax. They decide to convert $100,000, say this year, right? This is the first time that they've ever owned a Roth IRA. That's a key thing that's going to come back to our pro tip here. The first time they've ever opened a Roth IRA at the age of 60, they're converting 100,000 into this Roth IRA. They're above the age 59 and a half. So that checks one of the boxes. The other box that we have to check now is, well, this is their first Roth IRA. So it has to wait 5 years before we can actually take advantage if we need to withdraw on the tax-free growth. Now, they could come back 2 years later and say, I had an emergency. I need to, repair the roof. Can I get 30,000 of my 100,000 that I put in? We look again at the rules. They're above age 59 and a half, so there's no early withdrawal penalty. And on Roth conversions, just like contributions, you can take out what you put in. You just can't tap into the tax-free growth until 5 years has been hit. So that is a simplistic way of looking at the 5-year rule on contributions and conversions. Realize that if you are under the age of 59 and a half, there are things that you want to think about. And there's also exceptions to the rule of 59 and a half that can be around disability, death, or first-time home buyer. Those are all little exceptions. So if you have any questions around, hey, I'm 50 and I want to get into conversions, well, that really you need to have a conversation with a financial professional around that. Who we're talking to today is really the person that is around that retirement age and trying to shape up their tax-free bucket for retirement. Now, so that's the high level on the 5-year rule, but what's our pro tip, Raiden?
So the clock starts from when I open or contribute into my Roth. Okay. So go back to the factor. Now we did all of that around this idea of opening a new Roth. But if I did a conversion, let's say I did a little conversion, nothing big, when I am 55 and now I'm 60 and I do another conversion, now I'm above the 59 and a half guideline. And my Roth IRA has been open for 5 years. So my clock has already been satisfied. And so it kind of gets me into a scenario where I don't have to worry about the 5-year rule going forward. So here's our pro tip. If you do not have a Roth open and you want to make sure you get your clock started, go ahead and do a conversion. I don't care if it's $100, do a conversion and get it into a Roth, right? Or get it open. So you might be thinking, well, I'm 55, I'm a high income earner, I can't contribute to a Roth. You can do a conversion. You can convert. So if you've got a little tiny thing, just go ahead and convert and get it in there. And you got this little now Roth with $100 in it. Don't worry about that. The point is all we're trying to do is get the clock started. And so if you do not have a Roth, get the clock started. I'm going to go back to what Merce said. If you're listening to this and you're going, whoa, I need to understand this more and I need to get this detail, just go to our website, top right-hand corner, click on schedule call, hop on a 15-minute call with us. We'll give you some more detail individually on that. So now what we want to do, though, is we want to take you through an example so that you understand the power of the Roth conversion, as well as how we're going to walk you through the kind of what's taxable and what's not taxable in this scenario. So now in this scenario, we're going to make the person 60, okay, because we're going to have already said we're 59 and a half, but they're opening a brand new Roth because they're going to start doing conversions. And they've got some traditional IRA, and they've decided that over the next 5 years, they're going to do $50,000 a year into this conversion, or $250,000. So Merce, can you kind of walk us through what that looks like? and give us kind of we read it with a very conservative rate of return just so we can understand this.
Yeah. So we're making some assumptions here. The person is 60, so we're not worried about the 59.5 rule. They're converting 50,000 a year for the next 5 years into a brand new Roth account. So they've never had a Roth account before. And the other assumption we're going to make is on growth. So it's invested and it's invested to grow. It's going to earn 5% annually, compounding. And so year one, we have that $50,000 conversion, and we'll talk about the taxes in a second, but imagine 50,000 makes it into the Roth IRA. We have growth on that Roth IRA. So the 50,000 grows times that by 5%. That's $2,500 of growth. So by the end of year one, we have our 50,000 conversion plus the growth. So our total account balance is 52,500. We walk into now year two, another conversion, 50,000, 5% growth on that, on the entire bucket. It's cumulative growth. So now our growth has grown to 5,125. And so now our account that was at 52.5, we've added 50,000 of a conversion. We've also had interest that was earned. Now our balance is 107,625 at the end of the year. Walk into year three, another exact same scenario, 50,000 conversion, but now we have a bigger bucket of money that is earning 5% interest. So the interest is a little bit higher, around 70 or exactly $7,881.25 of interest that is earned. So now our total at the end of the year, we started with the 107,625. We added the $50,000 conversion. The conversion or the bucket of money itself earned some interest better than $7,000. So now our ending balance is $165,506.25. So you see the power here of just cumulative growth on money growing on top of money. Year four, same scenario, 50,000 goes in, bigger bucket of money that can earn more interest. By the end of this year, year four, now we have grown to $226,281.56. And now year five, our final year of conversions, same scenario, 50,000 goes in for the conversion. And so we were at 226,281 was our beginning balance. We added in a $50,000 conversion. We had interest earned of $13,814.08. So now by the end of year five, we started the account at zero 5 years ago. We've contributed $250,000 of conversions, and we've earned interest along the way. By the end of year five, our balance is now $290,095.64. I need to take a break here because that was a lot to go through, a lot of numbers there. Obviously, Raiden will remind you that we are going to have a blog that's going to list all this out. And so now, Raiden, let's walk through, well, what does all this mean?
Yeah. So I'm sorry, Mercer, did you year four talk about the growth and that what would
I have not yet.
All right, so
let's go through an example of maybe needing to take a withdrawal.
Yeah. So go back to year four. And when I'm at year four, just to recap his numbers, we basically now have a balance of $226,281. At year four, we've contributed though $200,000. So this is kind of like our little test on what we have access to. So right now, I'm going to ask you, what do you have access to on that $226,281? Answer it to yourself. That's right. You got it. $200,000. You have access to what you do not have access to yet is the $26,281.56. Why? Because that's growth, and we're only 4 years in, and it's a new Roth. Okay. Now, the end of the year five, I have access to all of the money because I'm 65. I've got access to it. I want to tell you, though, the real power. I want you to understand, because a lot of times people are doing this they say, I don't want to access this money until I absolutely have to. And ultimately, I might want this money just to go to the kids. All right. So either one of those scenarios, let me just kind of walk you through some math. Remember where I'm at now. I'm 5 years in. I've got $290,000. And I said, what if I let this money sit there for 15 years? Now, this doesn't have to be a person who's 65. Just forget that part. I let it sit there for 15 years, earning 5%. Now my balance is going to be $602,998.22. So now remember how much I put in. I put in $250,000. Now I got $602,000. So I've made about $350,000 in earnings. Now here's the power. Imagine that I had to take that $350,000 out and pay taxes. How much would I pay in taxes? Well, depending on our tax bracket, it would be a huge chunk. Here's the power. Let's say that I did these conversions over that 5-year period at a 22% tax bracket. How much money did I pay? If it's 22% on a $50,000 conversion, I paid $11,000 of taxes. Now I take $11,000 and I multiply that times 5. I paid a total of $55,000. So I paid $55,000 to now have $350,000 total net profit, 100% tax-free. Does that sound like a pretty good deal? I think it does, because now I've got all that money. And by the way, we have no idea. What if that $300,000 profit in the future had a 30% tax bracket? What would I owe? $90,000. So I got a much lower tax burden, and I got this nice growth. But everything has an advantage and everything has a disadvantage. So let's just run through quickly here, Merce, advantages of the Roth.
Okay. And I like the advantages because I love the Roth. I think it's very powerful. There's in our eyes 5 major advantages. One, obviously, is the tax-free growth in retirement, right? So you've got access to a bucket of money that is growing tax-free over time. And we just showed you how powerful those numbers can be, especially if we look at it as a very long-term growth vehicle. The second advantage is going to be that a Roth IRA is not subject to required minimum distributions. Required minimum distributions are once you reach a certain age, either 73 or 75, depending on when you were born, the IRS forces you to start taking withdrawals on your pre-tax assets like traditional IRAs, 401ks, and other retirement plans that you haven't paid any taxes on. At that age, you're forced to withdraw whether or not you want. A Roth IRA is not subject to RMDs. So now you get flexibility. You're back in control of a chunk of your assets, which is very nice. The third is tax diversification. Well, what does this mean, right? Well, think about it. If we have cash assets, if we have pre-tax assets, and now if we have a sizable tax-free asset, well, now when it comes to developing withdrawal strategies, we can blend things together to optimize our tax brackets as we go through retirement. So that can be pretty powerful as well. And then number 4, I think, is huge, and the reason why a lot of our clients are doing Roth conversions is the potential benefits for the estate and estate planning, right? So the Roth IRA, say it grows to a large amount because you started early and you never touched it. It grew and grew and grew, and maybe it ends up being $500,000-$700,000 by the time that you leave it to your beneficiaries. The rule once you leave it to your beneficiaries is it has to grow, or it has to be cleaned out of the account 10 years after it is inherited. That is a quick way of saying what the inherited IRA rules are. 10 years is where the beneficiary has to have cleaned out the entire account. So the one major benefit is once that beneficiary receives the money, it's tax-free money, so they can withdraw on it as they want. But the ideal scenario is they get the money, say it's $500,000 they inherit, they don't touch it as best as they can, they leave it alone for 10 years, and say it grows to $1 million or more. Now they clean it out. They've got a much larger larger tax-free growth. They clean it out, and there's no taxes due on that. So from a legacy planning perspective, tremendously powerful. And then obviously for the last one is going to be, we can hedge against future tax rates increasing, right? So if we have a sizable tax-free bucket, we're not too worried about our income strategy and our withdrawal strategy if our tax rates are going up in the future, right? We know in 2026, there is a sunset that is happening. Tax rates are going up unless there's significant legislative change. So if we have a tax-free bucket and tax rates go up, well, this bucket is not affected one bit, which is really nice. Now, those are pros, and I think I sold it pretty well, but there are some disadvantages that we have to think about. Not everyone should be doing a Roth conversion, so don't take that away from this message here today.
I'm going to call these disadvantages just really things you need to know, because I think if you listen to the disadvantages, it's just things that you need to know about, but not necessarily that bad. First of all, immediate tax burden. I don't know that that's a real disadvantage. It's just going to hurt. Nobody likes paying taxes. And if everybody would like to have that tax year where you don't pay a lot of taxes or no taxes. And now all of a sudden you're going to consciously do something to make you pay taxes. So it's just something you need to know. You're going to have to do it. All right. Some might call that a disadvantage. The other is a potential of lost benefit. What does that mean? Well, if you did this and you were at a certain tax bracket and 15 years from now, you're at a lower tax bracket, that was not a good deal. Right. So if you do it today, you are kind of along this idea that a tax rate in the future is going to be higher. So here's the thing. Merce talked about it, what we call tax diversification. Tax diversification says we don't know what the future tax rates are going to be. Even if you are a person who thinks there's no way taxes are going to be lower, it could be. We don't know, right? It could be for you at least. That's why we call it tax diversification. The other is loss of liquidity. If you do the Roth the way we say you should do the Roth, if you have the ability to do, is to not do withholding out of the conversion, but to actually do it from money that's not in an IRA. Maybe it's cash in the bank, a brokerage account, whatever it might be. So you're going to now go give that money to the IRS, which means you don't have it anymore, to be able to do this Roth. So you just have to understand, is it worth it to do that? And then the fourth one and the final one is the 5-year rule. Oh, I've got one more, Merce says.
Yep, we've got one more good one.
5-year rule. That one we've already explained. Now the fifth one and the final one is it says potential benefit impact on other benefits. So what this is about, and we have a whole episode on this, is that if I were to convert and I'm at the age of Medicare age, there's a thing called IRMA, and I could in all essence make my IRMA my Part B and D benefit. I might have a surcharge on it. I call that another tax. So we do throw people into an IRMA surcharge sometimes, but with full knowledge and understanding all the numbers, because it's only 1 year that we're impacted on the conversion. And so if you don't understand IRMA, and I just threw you off right there, go find our episode on IRMA. And we're glad we explain that in much detail. We do one every single year because IRMA surcharges or the way the calculations are done is redone every year. Okay. All right. We went through a lot. I just want to remind you before we close, there is an entire blog written on this. Just go to our website, pomwealth.net, go to the blog page. There's a nice blog, has all the numbers that we all went through. So you can kind of see all that, read it and understand it. Want to remind you again, if you're looking at this and you're thinking, man, I got some questions, go to our website, top right-hand corner, click on schedule call. You can see our schedule. You can make that 15-minute call. We tell you right up front, we may not be able to give you all the answers in the 15 minutes, but at least we can understand the situation and then schedule a call that we can go into all the details. All right. We hope this has been beneficial. We'll talk to you again next week.
We hope this video has given you some confidence and clarity as you plan for a worry-free life in retirement. But what else do you need? We have created a complimentary video course called 3 Keys to Secure Your Retirement. This video walks you through step by step what you need to do to get ready for retirement. You can also check out our podcast called Secure Your Retirement. You can subscribe below.
For more retirement tips, check out these videos. Also, if you find them valuable, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and give us a like.